In the misty morning kitchen, Patricia smiled at her husband's photograph. Tom's gentle smile beamed back at her, just as it always did. As she adjusted her apron, she gazed out the window. The upscale Scarsdale neighborhood was still wrapped in tranquility. "Tom, our angel turns 5 today." In the well-maintained flower bed, the roses that Tom had lovingly tended were blooming proudly. This time last year, they had been sitting together, enjoying coffee while admiring this very view. Who could have known that such peaceful days would be stolen away by a sudden heart attack? She reached for the silver photo frame on the counter, gazing at their family picture. It was taken last Christmas when Tom was still healthy. Her granddaughter Melody's smile, held in her son Ryan's arms, shone like the sun itself. Ryan's wife Rachel wore a perfect smile, dressed in sophisticated designer clothing befitting her profession. Back then, everyone's smiles were more natural. At the kitchen island counter, Patricia sipped her warm coffee, reflecting on their happy memories. The day Melody was born. That long night spent holding Tom's hand in the waiting room at Mount Sinai Hospital in Manhattan. The weight of that tiny life when she first held her. The day Melody first called her Grandma. How she'd repeated the newly learned word over and over, beaming with pride. That moment of joy remained vivid in her heart. And the last day Tom held Melody. His expression as he cradled her in his weakened arms in the hospital bed, whispering, "You're our treasure." Lost in memories, the phone rang. The display showed Ryan. It was his usual call before heading to Wall Street. "Good morning, Ryan." "Morning, Mom. Is everything ready for today's party?" "Yes, don't worry. Rachel's been acting strange lately. Could you keep an eye on her today especially?" "I understand. I'll watch out for her." After hanging up, the kitchen's silence seemed more pronounced. Indeed, over the past 2 weeks, something had felt off. The other day, while playing with Melody in the park facing Central Park, a stranger approached and tried to talk to Melody. He was a well-dressed man who introduced himself as an architect. Surprisingly, typically shy Melody conversed with him naturally. Especially that laugh. Melody's distinctive laugh seemed oddly familiar. Late that night, Ryan was working at his PC until the early hours. The screen displayed what looked like medical documents. He frequently checked his smartphone, occasionally sighing deeply. His furrowed brow suggested deep concentration. When asked, "Is work difficult lately?" he'd just reply vaguely, "Oh, well." Her son, who usually confided his family concerns, seemed to be keeping something to himself. Rachel's Instagram remained filled with perfect family photos. "Best mom life, perfect family, blessed with my family." She continued broadcasting an ideal family image to her 100,000 followers. However, her posting frequency had increased abnormally lately, as if desperately trying to prove something. The smiles in the photos seemed somehow unnatural. Conversations from last weekend's family gathering also troubled her. "I wonder who Melody got those blue eyes from. I don't recall anyone in Ryan's family having eyes that color," Aunt Martha had said. "That distinctive laugh of hers, I feel like I've heard it somewhere before. But I can't place it," said Patricia's sister Sarah. They should have been casual remarks. But Rachel's reaction was clearly oversensitive. She rushed to the bathroom, and when she returned, there were traces of freshly applied makeup. The sight of her trying desperately to control her trembling hands was painful to watch. That night, Patricia happened to watch a TV commercial for DNA test kits. A new product from 23andMe. The narration, "Discover Your Roots." A chance to know your family's truth, oddly stuck with her. There was talk in the neighborhood about a new architect who had moved to the upscale Scarsdale area. His name was Nathan Cooper. Apparently, he had business dealings with Rachel's company. His architectural designs had even been featured in the New York Times real estate section. Were all these events hinting at something? Or were they just the overactive concerns of an aging former nurse? Her intuition, honed by over 30 years of nursing, was warning her that something was amiss. Patricia gazed at her husband's photo again. "Tom, I hope my instincts are wrong, but if something really is going on, I need to protect our family." The sun had fully risen, marking the start of a new day. Today was her beloved granddaughter's 5th birthday. A lavish party at the Ritz-Carlton, New York, Westchester. What should have been exciting preparations were overshadowed by a heavy atmosphere. The kitchen clock showed 8 o'clock. Time was ticking away until the party. How would this day end? The chandelier in the grand ballroom elegantly illuminated the venue, decorated in pink and gold. "Rachel, could we move this balloon arch a bit to the right?" Rachel gave perfect smile instructions to the party planner. Every detail of the Disney princess-themed decorations reflected her meticulous attention to detail. Her aesthetic eye as an Instagrammer was undeniably impressive. "Has the catering been confirmed? Don't forget the allergy-friendly menu for the children." "Yes, Mrs. Wilson. We've prepared specially colored menu cards for allergy-friendly options." Patricia watched Rachel's back as she prepared in the dressing room. Dressed in a high-end designer dress, she appeared more composed than usual. However, her hands trembled slightly whenever she checked her smartphone screen. "Rachel, are you all right? Why don't you take a break?" "Oh. Yes. I'm fine. There's still so much to do." Just then, Rachel's smartphone vibrated. Upon seeing the name displayed, her expression tensed. She immediately rejected the call and began touching up her makeup. "Rachel, if something's bothering you." "I'm really fine. Today is Melody's special day." Those words seemed to harbor some deep shadow. At the venue entrance, Ryan repeatedly checked the guest list. With Wall Street analyst precision, he checked off each name. "Ryan, you don't need to be so meticulous." "Well, but today's special. Everything must be perfect." An envelope was visible in his hand. It seemed oddly personal for work documents. 2 p.m. 1 hour until the party begins. Guests were gradually arriving. Melody, having changed at her grandmother's house, should arrive soon. "Excuse me. Mr. Cooper has arrived." At the receptionist's announcement, Rachel and Ryan momentarily froze. Architect Nathan Cooper entered the venue with composed demeanor, holding an elegantly wrapped present. "Glad you could make it, Mr. Cooper. Ryan's voice carried an unnatural weight. "Thank you for having me." Nathan's response also seemed strained. The atmosphere between them was too heavy for mere business associates. Rachel watched from afar before hurriedly heading to the powder room. "Grandma." Turning around, Melody came running. Dressed in her party dress, she looked like a little angel. Her blue eyes sparkled in the chandelier light. "Happy birthday, my angel." As she embraced her, Melody's distinctive laugh rang out. That laugh definitely reminded her of someone. In the dressing room, Patricia accidentally witnessed Rachel crying while staring at her smartphone. The screen showed an email dated 5 years ago. The sender's name read Nathan. Rachel quickly closed the screen and began fixing her makeup. "Oh, Patricia, sorry. Just got some mascara in my eye." An obvious lie. But Patricia lacked the courage to point it out. 5 minutes before the party, over 100 guests had gathered in the venue. While children's laughter echoed, a strange tension hung among the adults. "The cake is ready." At the pastry chef's announcement, Rachel turned. The 5-tiered cake looked like it had stepped out of a fairy tale. However, contrary to its perfection, Rachel's expression harbored dark shadows. "Rachel, it's almost time for the cake cutting." At Patricia's voice, Rachel slowly nodded. Her eyes mixed determination with fear. The clock showed 3 p.m. The hands of fate moved inexorably forward. "Happy birthday to you, happy birthday to you." The voices of over 100 guests echoed through the grand ballroom. In the spotlight, Melody shone like a fairy tale princess. "Happy 5th birthday, Melody," was elegantly written in sugar lettering on the 5-tiered cake. Pink and gold balloons danced from the ceiling as children's cheers filled the venue. A perfect birthday party. Yet to Patricia's eyes, something was clearly amiss. Rachel's hands trembled slightly as she stood before the cake. Her refined profile wore an expression too rigid for this festive space. Ryan clutched an envelope at the edge of the venue, watching his wife. His gaze held deep sadness rather than anger. And Nathan Cooper. He stood quietly in the back, arms crossed, as if waiting for his fate to be determined. "Now, Melody. Make a wish before you blow out the candles." Patricia gently placed her hand on her granddaughter's shoulder. Melody closed her eyes, clasping her small hands before her chest. "Hey everyone, let's take a picture." Rachel's voice rang unnaturally high. She took out her smartphone and aimed the camera. However, her trembling hands were now impossible to hide. "Rachel, shall I take it?" "No, I'm fine." "This. I have to take this." Then it happened. "Happy birthday. Here's your surprise." With Rachel's scream, an unimaginable scene unfolded before them. She grabbed the cake and smashed it into Melody's face. The venue froze. Melody's face covered in cream. Blue eyes wide with shock. And tears gradually welling up. "Grandma." Melody called for her grandmother in a trembling voice. The sight tore at Patricia's heart. "How could you?" Someone screamed. children began crying. Camera flashes popped repeatedly. The sight of guests aiming for social media posts made this tragedy even more painful. Patricia immediately embraced Melody, trying to wipe away the cream. But she couldn't wipe away the wounds in her granddaughter's heart. "Rachel! What have you done?" Ryan's angry voice thundered. But Rachel was laughing. Crying while wearing a maniacal smile. Her perfect makeup ruined, mascara running down her cheeks. "What about you? What were you hiding?" "Rachel, this isn't the place for that." "Why not? Let everyone hear what you know." The venue fell silent. The air grew heavy. Then Nathan Cooper stepped forward. "Let me explain." "Mr. Cooper, please." "Not here." Ignoring Ryan's protest, Nathan began to speak. "Stop." Rachel's scream echoed through the venue. I'll tell them." But before she could, Ryan pulled out the envelope. "I already know who Melody's real father is. And it's related to today's party." At those words, a collective gasp filled the venue. Melody was still crying in Patricia's arms. Pink cream stained her dress. The scene seemed to symbolize this family's distortion. "Ryan, please." "Not here." Patricia pleaded in a trembling voice. "There are children present." But no one could stop it now. Years of secrets were about to be exposed in the ugliest way. Rachel collapsed to the floor. A life demanded to be perfect. The ideal family image on social media. And the truth she'd kept hidden. Everything had reached its limit. Nathan Cooper slowly gazed at Melody. Those blue eyes clearly told the story of their blood connection. The guests remained frozen at this unexpected drama. The party planner stood confused, waiters motionless with their plates. The air was heavy, as if time had stopped. Then Ryan pulled out the contents of the envelope. What he produced was an official document from a medical testing facility. The words, "DNA test results report," were coldly printed at the top of the white paper. "The results arrived a week ago." Ryan's voice was surprisingly calm. "I couldn't believe it at first. But this is the truth." Some families were seen leaving the venue with their children. However, most adults couldn't tear their eyes away from this shocking development. 5 years ago. Nathan Cooper began heavily. "Rachel and I met on a project." Rachel remained collapsed on the floor. Her perfectly styled hair and makeup now miserably disheveled. Wait." Rachel's scream cut off Nathan's words. "Let me tell it. At least give me that right." She slowly stood, trembling hands trying to fix her hair. 5 years ago, I was expected to be perfect. Social media followers demanded an ideal family image. Ryan's family expected success as a top designer. The pressure grew day by day. Then Melody whispered in a small voice. "Mama, why are you crying?" That innocent question momentarily froze the air in the venue. "Nathan." Rachel took a deep breath. "He was my escape. A place where I could just be myself, without being bound by ideals." And then we had Melody. Nathan's voice carried deep emotion. But I was too cowardly. Wait. Patricia raised her voice. To talk about this in front of the child. But there was no going back now. The DNA test shows with 99.9% probability that Nathan Cooper is Melody's biological father. Ryan stated the facts matter-of-factly. I first noticed Melody's blue eyes. And that distinctive laugh. They all came from Nathan. Rachel's voice trembled. Was tired of playing the perfect family. But once I'd built up that facade, I couldn't easily break it. The followers kept increasing, magazines started requesting interviews. And Nathan. Ryan continued quietly. You recently moved to this area. To be closer to Melody. Nathan Cooper sighed deeply. I won't deny it. Going 5 years without seeing my child was unbearable. Is that why you became my client? Rachel's voice mixed anger with sadness. Is that why you chose this area? Yes. Nathan admitted frankly. But it was a mistake. For the truth to come out like this. At that moment, Melody buried her face in Patricia's chest again. Grandma, I'm scared. Those words brought all the adults back to their senses. A 5-year-old girl crying before them. They had ruined her birthday. And now, she was learning an irreparable truth in the worst possible way. Everyone. Patricia spoke quietly but firmly. Let's end this here. We shouldn't continue in front of the child. Everyone nodded at that suggestion. The guests quietly left the venue, each carrying their own thoughts. Only the main parties remained. Ryan, Rachel, Nathan, and Patricia holding Melody. The truth was revealed. But what to do now? No one could see the answer. In a room at the Ritz-Carlton, New York, Westchester. Patricia, Ryan, Rachel, and Nathan sat facing each other. Melody was in the adjacent room with the hotel's childcare staff. Heavy silence filled the room. Patricia, drawing on the composure developed through over 30 years of nursing, slowly began to speak. Everyone in this room right now has the power to significantly impact one little girl's life. First, let's acknowledge that fact. Rachel kept her eyes down, Nathan stared out the window. Ryan's hands still trembled slightly. We have 2 choices. Patricia continued. One is to seal away this truth forever. The other is to create a new kind of family for Melody's sake. A new kind of family. Confusion seeped into Ryan's voice. Yes. It may be a painful truth. But this is our reality. And above all, that child is innocent. Rachel raised her head for the first time. Her tear-swollen eyes held a faint glimmer of hope. I don't expect to be forgiven. Her voice was thin and shaky. But for Melody's sake, I'll do anything. Rachel. Ryan called his wife's name. Forgiving you won't be easy. But. He took a deep breath. Melody calls you Mama. That fact won't change. Nathan spoke quietly. Please let me speak too. For 5 years, I've regretted my poor judgment. I don't intend to suddenly play father now. I just want to provide whatever support I can. Specifically, in what way? Wariness still tinged Ryan's voice. Counseling, Patricia suggested. First, let's bring in professionals. Melody's emotional care is the top priority. Everyone nodded. And step by step. We mustn't rush. Patricia continued. We'll explain things to Melody appropriate to her age. And each adult will have their own role. What about social media? Anxiety mixed in Rachel's voice. We should delete everything. Surprisingly, this suggestion came from Ryan. For a fresh start. You don't need to pretend to be perfect anymore. Fresh tears welled in Rachel's eyes. But these seemed like tears of relief. What about legal matters? Nathan raised a practical question. I'll introduce you to a trusted lawyer. Ryan answered. We need proper arrangements for Melody's future. Just then, Melody's laughter could be heard from the next room. Innocent laughter, still unaware of everything. To protect that child's smile. Everyone quietly nodded at Patricia's words. 1 week later. Melody was on the swing at the Scarsdale Park, Patricia gently pushing from behind. Ryan and Rachel had started counseling. Nathan was working through his lawyer to arrange regular support payments and visitation schedules. Grandma, higher. Patricia smiled gently at Melody's innocent voice. On the park bench lay a small locket containing Tom's photo. Tom, please watch over us. This child's, and everyone's new beginning. The evening sky was softly tinted orange. Tomorrow might bring new challenges. But this moment was filled with hope. There are no perfect solutions. But for those we love, we can move forward one step at a time. Perhaps that's what family truly means. Grandma, let's go get ice cream. Melody tugged at her hand excitedly. Yes, let's do that. A new step was about to begin.